The ANC has kicked off its 2024 election campaign. Party President Cyril Ramaphosa told voters in KwaZulu-Natal that only his party can solve their problems. We're now joined by political analyst Dr. Fikile Vilakazi to take a look at campaign trails of various political parties. But because the ANC has kicked off its one this weekend, we take a look at that for now. Sawubona, Dr. Vilakazi, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Perhaps let's take a listen at what the President of the ANC had to tell the people of KwaZulu-Natal over the weekend during that campaign trail.
So ANC fellow ukuthi ixazulule lezo problem and sizazilungisa lezo problem. Enye yile yogesi. Angithi igesi isi affecta sonke. Manje appointe i-minister njengoba usihlalo eshilo. Appointe i-minister ezosebenzana nogesi kuphela. 24 hours.
In 2023, we're still promising basic human rights to South Africans in the form of water and, of course, the appointment of the electricity minister being used as a campaign ticket. Dr. Vilakazi?
Good afternoon. I lost your voice a bit there.
I was saying in 2023, we are still promising South Africans basic human rights in the form of water, and the electricity minister appointment being used as a campaign ticket. Does any of this come as a surprise to you, at least?
Not at all. I need to also say good afternoon to you and to viewers at home. It is highly disappointing that we are still sitting with a message that the African National Congress used in 1994. We must say this, when they were campaigning on the Reconstruction and Development Program policy at that time, which promised everyone in South Africa that is marginalized access to housing. The RDP program, as we all know, it changed soon after that to GEAR. We had ASGISA, and we are here. There are many other programs that have come after that have highly disappointed South Africans. And every campaign that comes, we get the same promises that people's housing is going to be resolved, people's socio-economic conditions are going to be changed. And 5 years passes by for every election, and in fact what we see is the opposite, which is the deepening crisis around housing. It is an indictment to society that in this day and age, after so much deepening of crisis in terms of electricity, when we are living in darkness, when residents have been living in town halls, residents are living literally on pavements, that you find the ANC still using the same line tag to say we are going to build your houses, we are going to switch on your lights, when they haven't done it. And for me, really, it's an insult. It's an insult to the integrity of people. It's an insult to our dignity as citizens of this country. That the ANC can still go out there and have audacity that we can believe that kind of a line item in terms of doing campaigns, you know. And that's what I would say to all of us as citizens. We have heard this message before. We've been here before. What is it going to be different? Why is it going to be different this time around? Simply because we've got a Minister of Electricity, you know. And for me, that is highly problematic, and it's an insult to our intelligence as citizens of this country.
Here's another campaign message from the President of the African National Congress.
Let us unite this important vehicle of liberation for our people so that we don't only win in 2024, but we ensure that we meet and address the aspirations of our people. What is important in all this, comrades, is that the ANC must serve the people of South Africa. We must become servant leaders, and we must ensure that the African National Congress is once again seen as the leader of society, as an organization that addresses the needs of our people.
Let's take a look at the province that you are from, KwaZulu-Natal, when you take a look at the situation, would you say there's been progress and servant leadership, or the province has regressed? Maybe let's just take one issue, the beaches that have been contaminated with sewage.
KwaZulu-Natal is one of the provinces that we should know and remember, South Africa, that when we entered the new dispensation under the leadership of the ANC, it was called as, like in the Eastern Cape, one of those provinces that are marginalized. I think we were called the model provinces at that time. The situation has not changed. If you go to the rural communities of KwaZulu-Natal, communities do not have water. A simple thing, like if you are saying going to help people to get water in rural areas, why is it that you just don't give people water tanks? Because we know that there's a situation of not even people having taps. In KwaZulu-Natal, in rural areas, people don't know what it's like to have a running tap. If you are likely to have a running tap, it is somewhere in the middle of a road. And I'm talking as a villager here. I know exactly what I'm talking about. So we are sitting with a situation where citizens are thirsty. Our grandmothers and grandparents who are living with chronic illnesses, and just sisters and cousins who have to take medication, be able to cook, are not able to do that simply because there is just no water. Where we are able to drink water, we share it with animals, cows and sheep and goats. So that is what is happening in the rural areas of KwaZulu-Natal. And the promises of water that we hear being spoken about by the leaders of the African National Congress, who are government today, have not really landed themselves in our shores.
Okay. While we re-establish that connection to Dr. Vilakazi, and I do hope you are with us, Dr. Vilakazi, here's something that the President also said during that campaigning over the weekend on that Albert Luthuli. Let's take a look, listen at this.
We also have given a moment to listen to what the family has to say. There is a wound, what I call a historical wound, that the family is still suffering from. But it's not only the family, it is a historical wound that the ANC as a whole still feel unhealed, because the circumstances surrounding the death of our President, Chief Albert Luthuli, have still not been fully explained, and the family today has raised that quite frontally with us, that their desire, and particularly the desire of Dr. Albertina Luthuli, his daughter, is that we should go and dig deeper and to find out what were the circumstances that led to Chief Albert Luthuli's death.
Okay, Dr. Vilakazi, I do believe you are back with us. We apologize for that interruption, but point well made that nothing much has changed in KwaZulu-Natal. And then the president of the ANC saying he heard the pleas of the family to take a look at the matter of the circumstances that led to the passing of Babu Albert Luthuli, while you have a lot of cases that are still sitting with the NPA in terms of prosecutions of apartheid crimes and many other families who still to this day do not know what happened to their loved ones. How carefully has this been treated, right? So not just to make it an election campaign and say all the right things at the right times, but when it's actually time to do something about it, we're still sitting with questions as a people.
I mean, I think the timing is telling. Obviously, it is about making sure that the ANC uses Ubaba Albert Luthuli as a campaign, tool, and his family, and the issue of the fact that some of these issues beyond the Truth and Reconciliation Commission remain unresolved. It is not just Albert Luthuli alone. As we know, South Africans, many of the veterans of the struggle and their families and their beneficiaries continue to suffer. We've got a lot of families in South Africa who have not recovered bodies of their loved ones who died fighting for the liberation of this country that we are supposed to be enjoying and we're still not enjoying today. And those matters, because these members are probably not profiled, these members are not necessarily seen as have played a significant role like you, probably like Abu Baba or Albert Lutuli. Their names are not anywhere there. Their families are suffering. Some of their families and their children don't even have access to education as we speak. You would have seen how even military veterans had to fight tooth and nail just to get that recognition to say we need to be taken care of, our families are suffering, our children are suffering, and some people are still fetching ashes of their loved ones from offshore in Angola, from Europe, from the US, of loved ones who died fighting for this country. But our government has really not done much to respect that kind of a thing. So to come now at this point, 6 months or so down before the election, to then speak about those issues as if it is an issue that the ANC cares about. It's an indictment, not just to the family of Baba Albert Lutuli, but to all of us who are descendants of the struggle, to all our families and loved ones who really have been on the front line of this revolution that is really being eroded in the hands of the ANC. So again, it is playing into the emotions of the nation. It is playing into the psyche of the nation to say that we are going to continue to wound you in these ways, to violate you in these ways, to touch your sentiments. Because once you use that kind of a language, you are obviously speaking into the deep emotions that we all care about, which are emotions of the struggle. And that is how the ANC has kept itself in power, by really subjugating our emotional state and our psychological state as a nation, because they know that the black majority will continue to sit in this dilemma that says, if you do not put the ANC into power, who else do you put into power? Do we need to go back to apartheid and so on? So these are questions that are deeply emotional, deeply political for all of us to say, come 2024, if the African National Congress does not really take the pulse, who then does? Does it go back to Helen Zille? Or does it go to the EFF? Is the direction that we want to take? And that is an emotional state that messages of this nature is playing into, instead of really directing and speaking into the realities of the people and correcting the situation, and really the African National Congress taking responsibility for having failed the country for the last couple of years, I think 30 years or so to be exact.
Dr. Fikile Vilakazi is a political analyst. Thank you.